doubled in scope since Celebration 5. If you go across the hall, there's a whole other galaxy for you to discover. There's live podcasts, free patches given away, there's panels, there's signings, and there is the scavenger hunt. Now, every time I've done one of these intros, I've said, who's done the scavenger hunt? And more people raise their hands. So, who's done the scavenger hunt? Who started it? There you go. That's about 20, 30 people. It's really easy and it's free. And if you win it, you get one of these medallions. So you can put on like a funky yellow coat and, you know, have a Princess Leia costume person put it over your neck. And it's really easy. I'll give you a couple of the hints. They're on this little thing you can get outside, out front. But here's just 2 hints for you. And I'll give you some of the easiest ones. Let's see here. You can find a lot of things on a ranch, including a stamp. What kind of ranch might we be talking about? And one more, a stamp is not as permanent as a tattoo. We are 2 builders? I don't know. All right, and the final thing is the program is available for $3. It has all the Star Tots on the back, and it has all the information, the whole history of the collecting track and the collecting track giveaways. And if you want somewhere to put those Tots, they made up a really cute little display case. It costs about $20, and they all fit in there. It looks just like the old vintage toys. So with all of that said, I now present to you Jonathan, Gus, and Duncan to talk to you about good food and Star Wars.
So who here came to Celebration 5 and got any of our cereal box giveaways? All right, so a lot of you are food collectors, I guess. You're in the right place. So I'm Jonathan McElwain. I'm from the Washington, D.C. area.
Duncan Jenkins from Kansas City.
Gus Lopez from Seattle.
So what we're going to do here is talk about food collectibles from around the world. A lot of you are probably familiar with the U.S. Promotions, and so what we thought we'd do is talk about some of the foreign promotions that are kind of interest to us. So Gus is going to talk about cereal first.
Yeah, so Star Wars cereal promotions in the early days really started out only in a few countries and now has expanded to over 100 countries. So starting with Canada, so during the A New Hope promotion in the US, Canada was running a similar promotion by General Mills for the sticker sets. This is one of the I think it was probably the very first Star Wars cereal promotion. And in Canada, these boxes and stickers can be extremely rare. So they made about 7 different cereal boxes for the New Hope promotion in Canada. Only about 2 have surfaced, the Cheerios and Frankenberry you see here. And then of the sticker set, there are 16 in the set, but 8 of them are, attainable. The other 8 are, you're really, really, really lucky if you ever come across them. And occasionally you do, and they go for a lot of money because that second 8 got very limited distribution. So in the UK, there was also a cereal promotion for A New Hope, and that was on boxes of Shreddies. So there were 2 different size Shreddies. I think it was 10 and 15 ounce Shreddies. And this was kind of an interesting concept where they had different scenes, 4 different scenes on the backs of the boxes, and then Letraset stickers that you could apply to the scenes to make your own kind of custom Star Wars scenes. And because it was something that was associated with the box, this tends to be a box that people would be more likely to save because the box itself was the collectible. But surprisingly, few of these boxes still turn up today. You find the sticker sheets probably more often than the boxes, and a lot of the boxes get cut up because they're supposed to be scenes that give you instructions to cut up the box. So intact boxes for this are very difficult to find, but there are 8 different boxes from Shreddies in the UK. Now for Empire Strikes Back, the only cereal promotion that was done anywhere was in Australia, and they did a set of these 8 different character masks on boxes of cornflakes by Kellogg's. And they come in a couple different sizes. This set is also, really, really tough. So one of the theme you'll see throughout this talk, particularly with the international food items, is people will say food premiums. They very rarely will say food packaging. And then finding this stuff outside your own country from 30 years ago is just really, really difficult thing to do. And it's one of the things I think draws collectors into this area is that these things are very, very tough to find. Now for Return of the Jedi, there were promotions in a couple of countries. So for Australia, Kellogg's did promotions on cornflakes and rice bubbles, and they did these little discs with scenes from these, they call them decoder discs, that were with scenes from Return of the Jedi. And you could win various prizes that were shown on the back, like Kenner toys, associated with this. And so the premiums themselves get rubbed off a lot. So, obviously the challenge that you want to go after are finding the ones that haven't been rubbed off. And similar to the other ones, of course, the boxes are very, very tough to find.
And you actually broke off the bottom, so you can see a couple of the ones there have been rubbed off and sent in for prizes, I suppose.
Now, in Canada, they also released C-3PO cereal in addition to the United States. So C-3PO cereal was the first Star Wars branded cereal. There's the first cereal that actually had a name after a Star Wars character or title. And throughout Canada, they did very similar promotions that they had in the US. So they had some of the character masks that they had in the US, they offered in Canada. They had these trading cards in the US, whereas in Canada, they had these kind of sticker trading cards that were a different size and used a lot of the same images, but were just kind of very different format. Also, one of the really cool things about the Canadian cereal promotion with 3POs is they had these tiny little boxes of cereal that go in the multi-packs. They didn't do that in the US, and so the small mini-sized boxes of C-3POs are one of the most sought-after cereal collectibles because it's just the first of those kind of very small Star Wars cereals. There's also a 3PO cereal cap and a couple other things, a store display and so on. Now in New Zealand, this is probably the most obscure vintage cereal collectible. So Cornflakes had bags of cereal, so instead of boxes of cereal, they actually had bags in New Zealand, and then they had this sticker set that went along with it. And these premiums and these bags are exceptionally hard. Kellogg's was doing something in New Zealand and Australia, but just very different type of format in New Zealand. And yeah, you'll see these very rarely turn up. In fact, many food collectors outside of New Zealand didn't even know about these till about 10 years ago. They were that obscure. Now, for a Star Wars Special Edition, there's some really interesting things that came out in South Africa. So Nature Source, this brand that's local in South Africa, came out with these Star Wars boxes with photography from the movies, a very different style than we'd seen in cereal promotions before. And they had a set of these pogs, which I think they called Bezos, that were, there were I think 60 in the set.
Yeah, it was 60.
So it was like unbelievably impossible to put that whole set together. I don't know anyone who ever actually put a set together of these, but they had like really brilliant boxes, and so a lot of these started to surface in the community, and it just kind of came out by surprise. And that's one of the challenges with collecting food items is all this stuff's going on in the world, different local licensees. And you just kind of hear about it through word of mouth. There's no real good central source to find out about what's going on. But anyway, these surfaced during the special edition. Now for episode 1, Kellogg's did a massive promotion all throughout Europe. So it was kind of centrally planned throughout Europe, but they had different types of premiums and different artwork on the packaging for the different countries in Europe. So in some of the places they did these spoons, little plastic spoons with characters on them. In other places they had these small statues that had little scrolls inside of them. And then in the other countries they had these little plastic crystals. So, and then they had unusual store displays for different countries. So like the one you see kind of in the upper left-hand corner, they just got a kid and had him wear like a motorcycle helmet. I think they were trying to have him be like a pod racer like Anakin, but they didn't use any of the stock photography. They just grabbed a kid wearing a helmet. And then in Spain they went with they using characters on the boxes. So and then in other countries they used some of the cereal characters. So it varied all over Europe, but to get the context on this, so up through the first, say, 15 years of Star Wars, there had been maybe like 60 cereal boxes worldwide. Episode 1 brought that total number up to 200. So it was a huge leap in the number of cereal boxes that had been ever produced. Then comes episode 2, and that took it out of control. So Nestle did this worldwide promotion covering South America, Europe, and Asia, and they had these 6 different 3D cards that they put attached to the front of the boxes. You can see on the right side the 6 different 3D cards. Now, you take a brand like Zucosos, which they had in various countries throughout Latin America, they have 6 different cards. Zucosos comes in about 5 or 6 different sizes, and then there's a whole bunch of other brands like Chocopic, Estrellitas, all these other kind of Nesquik. And so some countries had like 120 different boxes. So episode 2, there's this huge explosion of like another 600 cereal boxes worldwide. So to fanatic cereal and food collectors, this created quite a challenge and really built, though, our networks of friends all over the world so we could put together large sets of these. Now, for episode 3, it was still kind of the same way. They had a massive promotion all over the world, so Europe, Asia, North and South America, Australia, so they covered most of the continents. Had Kellogg's in many of those countries, and so throughout Europe they had these little maze lightsabers that were offered in some of the countries, and then a couple different premiums in other countries in Europe. And then for a very kind of recent promotion, this is from Clone Wars in Europe, they had kind of similar lightsaber premiums, a lot of the imagery from Clone Wars, and so this came out like a couple of years ago. It actually came in various waves, and so with every kind of Star Wars film event always leads to some kind of serial promotion somewhere. And so Clone Wars, they had a pretty extensive one in Europe. Now, this is an interesting one from Guatemala. So this is from Clone Wars, and Duncan and I and a bunch of friends were in Guatemala last year, going to a convention and touring around the country, and we stumbled onto this cereal promotion. It was an oatmeal promotion, and this one had. You can see on the left-hand side of a lot of these oatmeal containers different types of school premiums. They have like pencils and erasers and like pencil sharpeners and so on. There's like 5 different premiums that they would just like tape onto the side of the packaging, which had like a Clone Wars themed kind of packaging. And then there's 9 different of these oatmeals, so it's 45 combinations of these cereals, and then we also found some variants in the tops and so on. So so here we are visiting Guatemala, trying to tour it, but we're spending like all our time in supermarkets trying to find these things, and then at best we only found like half of these. Then there were these, there's also these other kind of food items they had there, these like drink mixes and other packaging for oatmeal. So it was kind of an interesting thing that you think about a lot of food collectibles when you visit countries. This is a brand that's only local to Guatemala. No one really knows about it. You just happen to be visiting it. So it really occurs to you that many times these food promotions are going on and we don't even know about it because they can be so obscure. Now for Phantom Menace in 3D, there were a bunch of serials released in different countries. So for Mexico, had probably the most extensive promotion. I don't think I've found all the boxes yet, but I think it's somewhere in the ballpark of like 75 to 100 different cereal boxes and bags. And some of the small ones had these little cutout character standees. And then there are a bunch of other premiums as well that they had in Mexico.
Well, now we're going to move on to bread. Take a look at some of the bread promotions. This is just going to give you kind of a feel for how just about any kind of food that you can imagine has been done as a Star Wars promotion associated with it. And as Gus said, this is going to be very, very challenging, as these things obviously have a very short shelf life, literally. You don't want a bread promotion that goes on and on for years. You don't want those just still sitting on the shelf later on when you go to find them. So knowing that a promotion is going on, being able to track down this stuff can be very, very challenging. But it's something that we definitely enjoy, and part of that is just the interesting packaging that comes from these promotions. I mean, who's ever heard of rainbow bread before? But in New Zealand, evidently they have, and so this was during about the special edition times, and there were different cards that you could get, kind of harken back to the very first Star Wars food promotion that I was familiar with, which was the Wonder Bread promotion that had little trading cards inside of it in the United States for the first movie. And so with this, there was a little decoder prize as well that you could use a little clear plastic that you would put over the thing to see if you won a prize. It was one of those that you could tell whether you won or not before you put the decoder over it anyway. And in Attack of the Clones era in Mexico, a company called Bimbo decided that they would do a Star Wars promotion, and Gus and I were in Mexico during this promotion too at one of the conventions, and so they had a lot of ladies modeling the bimbo breads, and the word the bimbo bimbos, obviously, unironically named, I guess. But the fun little holographic punch-out cards that you would make ships and characters out of those. And then that continued for Revenge of the Sith, also in Mexico. And these had some nice hefty little metal figures. There was a set of those that you could collect. And on those, there was actually sometimes the packaging would not say Star Wars and it would still have one in it. So not all Star Wars promotions will come out of a Star Wars packaged wrapper.
All right, moving on to chips. Early on in the vintage area, there isn't all that much, but in Empire Strikes Back, here's a Dutch promotion. There's a couple bags that you can see at the top, and it's just sort of a standard bag, and the stickers, the premiums, were actually applied to the outside of the bag. You most commonly find these actually still in this uncut strip like you see at the bottom, occasionally you'll see them, but generally they were just applied to these bags. The bags themselves are really tough to find. In Puerto Rico, also around Empire Strikes Back, I think this was sort of between that and Return of the Jedi, they had these set of 20 stickers here that you could collect and an album to put them in. There have been some other things, I think, that use that same line art. In Spain, this is actually Ewoks and Droids time frame. There were these little sort of film-like strips that you could collect of these scenes. I know there's at least 20 of those to collect. You can see a wrapper there in the lower left-hand corner, and in the lower right what the back of one of those looks like. There's some fun little scenes on those. This is actually, it says Return of the Jedi, but it's actually a little bit later, after the Ewoks and Droids. This is the Yuppie figures. They're sort of smaller, they're based really on the Kenner figures, and they come a number of characters, and you can see from the ones that are there that each character potentially comes in quite a few colors. These are really hard to find and really expensive when you find them, so putting a set of those together is a real challenge.
Now, this is another one of those things that a lot of collectors didn't even know about up until 10, 15 years ago. And then as they saw them, and because of their direct likeness to the Kenner figures, I mean, they're dead representations of the Kenner figures in most cases, except Princess Leia has like straight hair. She doesn't have the buns that she's famous for, which is very unusual. But many of the vintage collectors that like the toys will also try to find these.
At the special editions, there were these promotions. Frito-Lay had the license in the US, and they've got sort of partner brands or whatever that they distribute under. So these are just two of those. In the Dutch had these branded under Smiths. You can see two of the bags in the upper left. And Duncan was talking about sometimes finding premiums in bags that aren't marked. Here's a regular bag that has just a sticker that's been applied to it, so they're using up old stock of bags, so you have these sort of transitional things that you get into. The one beside it, kind of in the middle there, is now the packaging actually has the offer printed on it. And what you were getting out of those below it are these movie shots. You can see one there at the bottom of the screen. It's a little sort of see-through image, and on the lower left you could put it in the little box there, and there's basically a flashlight that you stick in the box, and you could project the scene on your wall, ceiling, or wherever you want. On the right-hand side, Walkers in the UK did a Tazos promotion. Tazos were similar to Pogs in the US. They're just these little round discs, and there were some of them came packed with a little winning ticket, but most of them were just one little Tazo in each bag of chips. You can see a couple of, there's a dangler there, that trapezoidal shaped thing, and a couple of other store displays in the upper right. These are also the same countries. Most of this is UK. This is Phantom Menace now, and they bought into the whole Jar Jar thing. So you can see that Jar Jar on a number of the packaging. It's not on all of the packaging, but quite a lot. And you can see the banner kind of offer along the top of those. They made 100 million Jar Jar tons. So you can see those at the top. There's a Walker's one that's carded. There was also sort of a mail-in thing that came in a little box. The one in the bag is that way. The one in the lower right is a Dutch one. You can see the Smiths and Pepsi logo on that one. For the Clone Wars, there was a huge number of premiums for this chip promotion in Mexico for Sabritas. There's quite a few bags to collect, but there were actually 90 cards. It's some kind of a card game, and so you had to eat a tremendous number of chips to collect that series. I just waited till someone was selling a full set. There was no way to try to get that. But beyond that, there's quite a lot of the packaging out there. Moving on to yogurt. This is one of my favorite things. Yoplait yogurt in Spain had this, you got packs of 2 stickers with them. You can see those on the right-hand side. And the sticker is a rectangular shape, as you can see, but it's die cut around it. So Chewie would be, actually pretty much the shape of Chewie's head. And the large image is actually a poster. It folded down, but it's actually all one poster. And that's a complete one that has all 50 that have been applied to it. You can see around Lando there one that was misplaced, but otherwise whoever did this one was pretty good at applying those things. In the UK, Dairy Time had a yogurt promotion. You can see the advertisement on the left there. There were 8 different cups that you could collect. You can see some of those on the right-hand side. There's also a lot of variations of the lids. So you can see the 2 that sort of have the yellow backgrounds with the Return of the Jedi logo. One of those was used and peeled off. You can see the date stamp on it. The other one's actually an unused one. So it's fun to try to find box flats that have been unused or things like this that were, in sort of pristine condition. On the right, those are both fudge yogurt. You can see there's one that uses the Return of the Jedi logo and one that has a completely different image on it. For Clone Wars, this is an promotion from Argentina. These were little bottles of drinkable yogurt, so there was a set of 10 of those to collect. In France, also for the Clone Wars, they had these little bottles. The things in the upper left are the cartons that the little bottles came in. The bottles themselves didn't have any Star Wars graphics on them, but if you open the carton on the inside, the 5 stickers that are along the bottom of those were the premiums that you could find. In the upper right, you have this Yop. This was some kind of a drinkable yogurt and was probably the worst smelling thing that I ever got. You usually ask people to clean these things, and your cleaning and their cleaning may be different. It sat on a boat for a long time on its way to my house, so they smell terrible. Another promotion from Argentina. This is recent, just for the 3D re-release of Episode 1. I'm missing at least one of these here, but it was a branded yogurt. I'm not sure. Have you seen these, Gus? Did they have cereal on the top of that?
I don't know if you'd call it cereal or candy, but they were this very chocolatey little balls on the top.
Yeah.
So I haven't decided whether I count it as my cereal. I haven't.
Yeah. It's just a categorization thing, I guess.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of other ones that I found that were sort of just a different altogether. I'm not sure how many of the ones there on the left there are. Fast food, this is a promotion from Australia, Empire Strikes Back time. There were these 3 cups that you could collect. There were actually also cups from New Zealand at the same time. They're a little bit different, basically use the same designs, but just slightly different cups. One of the fun things to collect for fast food related stuff is a lot of times there'll be apparel that the employees wear. So here you had these sort of question mark series of t-shirts, and I think this is all five shirts that you could get, and I believe each of the characters came in a red and blue hat, and then the characters' names were on the back. But that was part of just the huge Tri-Con promotion that was similar to what was going on in the US. It was just all over the place. In the Clone Wars time, I love the image of Ronald McDonald with a lightsaber there. But there were these Happy Meal boxes all over the place. Those of you familiar with the US promotions, you can kind of see that a lot of the promotions get used different places. On the right there are actually little punch-out cards where you could make some of the ships. And there's at least a couple variations of those. They're the same image on the front, but you turn the back over and there's some information in different languages. Did anyone here eat the Darth Vader burger? I see one hand, there was a survivor. These didn't look too appealing. I was doing some traveling last year around the time of this, but I missed it by like 1 week. That doesn't look real appealing to me, but you know, they did some fun little tour premiums there, and then these were very limited, I think, in terms of how long they were available for each of the different burgers, especially the Darth Vader one.
Yeah, that black one was supposed to be very, very spicy. All right, let's look at some entrees. So one of the things that when Star Wars was so popular, they wanted to just slap, you know, Star Wars on everything, and luckily Lucasfilm said no to a lot of things, and one of the things that they said no to were just kind of, I guess you'd call it junk food, although they did do a lot of candy, but it had to meet kind of a certain level of healthiness before they would allow for a Star Wars promotion. And so this is one of the ones from Canada that was acceptable. It's this alphagetti, kind of a pasta and sauce, red sauce, so just kind of like a SpaghettiOs. But this would have a puzzle promotion here. There was another one from Canada at the same time for a hot dog, but I don't think we have a sign of that. Yeah, it's just a foil wrapper. But the prizes for that one were just, you know, would make collectors today drool, because it was like Canadian 3-packs and, you know, these just rare items, the utility belts and things that, you know, go for thousands of dollars today were the, you know, toy prizes for eating these hot dogs. Also, we didn't really get anything in the United States at this time, as, you know, as far as entrees go, but in the UK, a company called Walls had their sausages and things like this, you know, kind of breakfast sausage things. And the top there is a very colorful store display, a little shelf-talking thing, and then there was a thing for it in Lookian magazine, which is a very popular British magazine. But we got a revisit of the Letraset rub-down transfers that Gus talked about from the cereal boxes. These are individual ones that for some odd reason also ended up being, some of them packaged individually and given out as premiums in Japan for some of the candies there. And then nothing really until Phantom Menace, but Heinz came back in the UK with more pastas, and this time you had your choice of a regular mall or a hologram mall on the wrapper, and hologram is very big about that time, so you can see also the Queen Starfighter is one of the other holograms you can get. This promotion is one that, you know, just drives collectors crazy because it is completely unbounded as far as we can tell. It was just anything that this company, Le Gaulois in France, all of their stuff, these frozen chickens and turkeys and individual meals and various flavors, you know, cordon bleus and oriental flavored chickens and chicken nuggets, and then even the plastic, you know, kind of styrofoam containers for these things. They all had the Star Wars promotion and pizzas. And they started off with a set of stickers or magnets, and then when the DVD was released, they switched it to the other one. So one of them was first and one of them was second. But it was just the entire line that came out again with a slightly different character on the front, and there's just like a million of these things. So there's stories of people in France, you know, collectors like Gus and Steve that were over there at the time and would just, you know, be buying up all this, just throwing it in people's freezers, or you know, just getting rid of it as fast as they could so that they could just keep the packaging. And this was one from Spain. So some hot dogs and various different types of hot dogs that Campo Frio did, and this was for the Clone Wars, so it's kind of a fun little promotion that they did. This was just prizes, so there was no premium. And then the most recent one that we're aware of anyway, from Germany, and these are spaghetti boxes, so instant spaghetti box dinners. And they were, again, 2 different sizes, and you could choose whether you wanted to go with dark side dinner or light side dinner. Peanut butter kind of falls into an entree, kind of doesn't, depending on how you do it, so we're going to put it in a miscellaneous. But the York company in Canada had these little things that were fixed to the lids, and there was a set of 6, and the 6 character discs here are fairly common actually for a food. Again, the premium is very common, or at least fairly common, but the packaging is just basically impossible to find. Nobody decided that they wanted to save an empty peanut butter jar from The Empire Strikes Back. The cheese spreads, kind of Dairy Lee, is another famous promotion that went on during the Empire Strikes Back era, and this was done in the United Kingdom. And again, we have Letraset transfers, and the inside of the lid there that has the R2 and 3PO on them would have a different world or a different scene. And so, you know, Dagobah or the asteroids or Hoth or Bespin. And then you could have hours of fun rubbing the little characters onto the inside of your cheese lid. But you could also mail off for the bumper transfer pack, which is the big one, and that actually had a really nice scene on it that you could do. Yes, they've even made dog food. Star Wars promotion, and this was in Australia for Return of the Jedi. These are just very famously impossible to find. People have searched high and low for these things, but evidently the dogs aren't trading because nobody can find very many of these things. There's really only about 3 or 4 collectors that even have a single example in their collection. And only 1 bag that anybody's ever turned up, and that's Steve's. The Amora company did these little mustard jars, and the very cool idea, you know, when you're done with it, now you have a drinking glass, and so there was a set of 4 of those. Some really good, interesting things. It has Kiko, the Ewok, is one of the more obscure Ewoks that you don't see. So all you Kiko Ewok focus collectors, you get that jar, you're done. There was also a similar one that was done in Germany. Company name started with an H, like Hinken or something like that, that did a more cartoony set. These are a noodle promotion from Japan. They love their noodles over there, and what better way to have them than with a good Star Wars trading card. And so I believe there was 30 in this set. It was during Return of the Jedi, but it was also had pictures from A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. and even kind of behind the scenes Hoth scene of the Rebel base. It's just kind of a unique picture that you don't see as the usual photos of the Hoth base and things like that that's there. Droids and Ewoks did not really get very much food promotions except in Spain, and that's their main claim to fame is the Spanish promotions. And so Panrico did these, which had a lot of stickers that they co-branded the droids and Ewoks. So the sticker set comprises both scenes from the droids cartoons and the Ewok cartoon. And they also, with that promotion, had a lot of single color plastic figures. We're going to show those later on, or is that okay? They don't photograph very well, but they're really cool looking, and it's a lot of, again, very obscure characters in these little single colors that were available in multiple colors, so it's challenging to try and collect a set of every single color. Dara Lee got back into it with some cheese again. This is these little cheese wedges, so you know, the individual foil wrapped cheese triangles, and each one would have a little sticker card affixed to the top, and those little slice wedge shaped things there. And again, some very obscure Ewoks, and then only R2-D2 and C-3PO got any kind of love in this one, so none of the other droids showed up there. And then there was also a VHS promotion that you could get one droid and one Ewok. For episode 1, it again kind of went over the edge with multiple sizes and multiple characters, so you could get, you know, 6 different characters or however many on infinite number of different size portions, and they're just, you know, bigger and bigger your cheese collection. But there was a set of 10 little flip cards in there that would kind of pop out and do multiple scenes and things.
Yeah, the image in the lower right is one of the ones that after you folded it, you see this other image revealed.
This is some sauce that goes on, it's like a curry sauce that would go on top of rice. And these came in hot and hotter, I guess, basically. It's mild and hot, but their version of mild is hot. And the other thing is, if you're ever in Japan, the blue there is the hot, the red is the mild. So don't accidentally grab the wrong one there. But a nice set of 20 round discs that were available there as well.
All right, on to drinks. These bottle caps, there's a lot of those, and they're one of my favorite things of the older collectibles. So this is from Canada. There's a Coke cap there and a Coca-Cola cap, and once you finished your Coke, you turned your bottle cap over and peeled the liner like they used to have out of it, and there was a character in there. In the upper left, you can see a little poster. There were different sized posters and other sort of things with this, but there were pairs of these. So C-3PO and R2-D2 went together. If you found those, it was 15 cents and on up. So generally the loser caps are on top there, and the winner caps are in the bottom row. I'm still looking for the Leia. You can see a couple of bottles. They're still full there, so there's still some of those out there to be found. Groovies was it's actually in the fast food category, I suppose. But that was in Winnipeg. It was just a local, I think it was a chain local to Winnipeg is my understanding. But you can see there's a couple of cups, and they actually use the same artwork that you can see up in the poster in the upper left, so that's why I included that here. In Japan, they had a series of 50 different images that you could collect on bottle caps. And you can see those in an actual little plastic tray that they pushed down into. That was some kind of a premium that you could get. Along the bottom there, you see there's just almost infinite numbers of variations. Those are all actually different. Even though the Coca-Cola ones all look the same, if you get in and look at it, they're actually different markings on them. Fanta Grape was a new flavor that they were doing, so those probably have the most variations. Some of them say new around the edge, and you can see some of them have the purple text and some have black. But there's just lots of variations to get into. You'd go insane trying to get all 50 in each of those, but it's interesting to at least kind of collect a sampling of what all those were. They had some great premiums. You can see the R2D2 radio that's there at the top, and there's a little advertisement for it below that. And below that's a t-shirt, which is pretty hard to find. And there were winner caps that got you the radio and the t-shirt, and also ones that got you monetary prizes. All of those winner caps are very difficult to find. In Mexico, they had a set of 32. I'm still looking for the Bantha. It's the one missing there. These all look like they've been buried in someone's backyard for a while whenever you find them. But some of the images are the same as the Japanese caps, some are different. I like them just, the image tends to be a little larger than the Japanese caps, just because you don't have the text above and below them. Here's some Jedi-esque from Sweden, and with collecting these things, especially things like bottles, you have to make a decision about whether you're going to save the whole thing or just save the labels. So along the top there are some labels that were peeled off and flattened or may even have been unused, I'm not sure. The Yoda that I have, I know, I don't think was ever used. But there along the bottom, you can see that there's some of the bottles that have survived, and there's a little along the neck, you can see a separate little label that had Yoda on it. For the special edition area, sort of similar to the cereal, things just sort of mushroomed out of control. So the bottles on the left-hand side are all from one European country. These are all Dutch. They're all 1.5 liter bottles. And so, you know, there's what, 12 bottles there that you could track, at least 12 that you could track down. They're all different with different offers and that on them. And then on the right, you know, you go on to the next size and just start doing the same thing and move on to the next country. So it can be, even though I focused my collection on cereal, I'm not sure that that was the greatest choice, or on food, I'm not sure that that was it's not real focus. Here's South Africa. They had, most of the world had Pepsi. In South Africa, there was this Pride Cola. As far as I know, it's not related to Pepsi.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I think you're right.
Yeah. So these are pretty hard to find. It's a set of 8 cans. They have, you know, kind of interesting graphics on them. The one on the left, you can see what they all have sort of the Pride logo. They're all different flavors on them, but those have been pretty hard to track down. In Japan, they did just massive promotions for all 3 of the prequel movies, all of which featured these bottle caps, and you know, they had some really cool mail-in premiums. You can see the one on the lower left there for episode 2. Once you completed your collection, you know, you got this thing to store them in. I love the Death Star one that's on the right. You know, those are just really neat little things to collect. For Clone Wars in Argentina, there was this Zuko drink. It's a small little box. They were like it's like a powdered drink mix, and then there were these cups. They don't photograph real well, but they're sort of a semi-transparent plastic, but some cool graphics on those. Cookies, or in this case really biscuits, these are Burton's from the UK. You can kind of see that there's probably one more of these, at least. You can kind of see the line art in the ones in the upper left and middle top. And then they moved on to just a different art, but kind of the same, you know, Luke Jedi paired with Vader. And then on the bottom row there's some ones where there was, you could have a chance to win a party with Darth Vader. In France, at the special edition time, BN had these little cards that you could get, and the sort of tall things in the upper left are these stacks of these little cookies, and you got the cards. The cards are pretty neat, but there's tons of variations on them. You can see in on the right-hand side, there's just sort of these, I guess you'd call them more minor variations of text, or the CE logo being there or not. But you can see along there, the three Boba Fetts are all different. There's obviously two different images altogether, but there's other variations there. So there's quite a lot of those to track down. In Mexico, Gamesa had these cookies. All the things in the sort of upper left-hand side are multi-packs of cookies, and there were a series of little figures that you see along the bottom. There were also cards and lots of wrappers to track down with that.
Now we go to ice cream. Now, ice cream has some, as a food collectible, some interesting characteristics. One thing is the artwork that was used, particularly in the early ice cream promotions. They took pieces of Star Wars art from the posters and then added their own and created some very colorful, interesting box designs. So in this case, here's Street's box from Australia, and it had a promotion where they had character and ship cutouts on the back. And then another interesting thing about ice cream collectibles is you can go after the boxes and the wrappers. And other kinds of food collectibles, you run into the same thing where both the wrappers and the boxes are collectible. Now, New Zealand had an interesting ice cream promotion where they used images from A New Hope and also used some McCory images. So it's one of the first and only uses of McCory art in a Star Wars food premium. And so a lot of McCory enthusiasts have gone after that. And so they had this set of these cards from, half of them are McCory pieces, and that was by Tip Top in New Zealand. Now, in the UK, Lions Made did their set for A New Hope, and then you'll see some other examples from Lions Made. So they had these interesting kind of colorful wrappers where they used just a few colors, but enough to get the kind of likeness of various characters from Star Wars. But it was very creative in I think the use of colors, like the Tusken with the reds and oranges and the blues on Chewbacca and so on. And so there were 6 different wrappers that were made for these popsicles. Streets then came back for the promotion. Empire Strikes Back did a very similar promotion, had more artwork that was just unique to the ice cream promotion, and then had the character cutouts come back. So a similar promotion in Australia by Streets. In New Zealand, again, Tip Top came back for Empire Strikes Back, very different kind of popsicle promotion. Here they had these character masks that were available in the Tip Top popsicles. Lions Made, again, remained the licensee for Empire Strikes Back, and you can see, looking back at the A New Hope wrappers and the Empire Strikes Back wrappers are very similar. They used 6 different characters from the movie, using some kind of standard art that was used for Empire Strikes Back. And then they had a set of these different cards that were also available as part of the promotion. Then for Return of the Jedi in Australia, Paul's and Peter's both did their different ice cream cereal.
That's on your mind.
Yeah, you have this one-track mind. That's right. So anyway, they had 2 different ice cream promotions. Again, very colorful box art, different wrappers. So it's interesting, you go through all the ice cream things, what they call ice cream in different countries. They go, from popsicle, one of them is called icy pole. They're called icicles. They're called, all sorts of weird names all over the world. So there's no consistent use of ice cream, and sometimes there are branded names that they use. Then for Return of the Jedi in Netherlands, Campina had these little square cards that were part of their ice cream promotions with kind of different scenes from actually all of the movies.
Yeah, they're actually, I think, all Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, but it is a Return of the Jedi era promotion.
Yeah. And Tip Top then did the third of the films in the original trilogy, so they also did one for Return of the Jedi. Again, very different than what you saw for Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope from Tip Top in New Zealand. This time they had Ewok stickers, so scenes from Return of the Jedi, but with Ewoks in those scenes. So sometimes they had 3PO and R2 and others in it, but they're always Ewok-centered themes. For special edition, this is one of my favorite kind of ice cream promotions of all time, was the one that they did in Spain for special edition. They did these popsicles that had these little popsicle sticks of plastic, and they had custom artwork that was used throughout all of these. And so some of them are based on very kind of classic Star Wars images, but they were kind of converted to this unique artwork for the promotion. And if you look at most of special edition hero merchandise, by then they've kind of moved to kind of global branding, really standardized imagery in worldwide promotions. And this is one of the exceptions where they're still using kind of their own artwork for a promotion. And then variation. I don't know.
Yeah, you can, right? Yeah, there's like, some of them have a Lucasfilm copyright and some don't. So,
that's right.
Once you think you're done, then you notice something that's different.
Yeah, and then Eskimo for Japan had 30 different Star Wars cards for Attack of the Clones. And so, again, like ice cream is like one of those kind of staples of food promotions. Almost every film, there's going to be something somewhere in the world with ice cream. So Japan did one for Attack of the Clones. This is a very recent promotion for a set of popsicles in Japan for the Phantom Menace in 3D. I'm not super familiar with that character from Japan. I'm assuming it's some ice cream branded character, not some new character in the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty well-known thing. It's one of those things where they've adapted something that already exists and sort of interjected some Star Wars imagery in it.
Yeah.
There's a popsicle stick on the right there. If you found the one that actually had the saber, then you won the T-shirt.
All right, so even though earlier I said that Lucas didn't like junk food licensing on everything, there is a fair amount of candy that we've got, and so we're going to start off with Meiji Company in Japan, which had this great promotion with all of these different boxes. There's 20 different characters on the boxes, on the back, 4 different fronts, so do the math, you've got 80 different of those that are impossible to find by themselves, let alone all 80 of them. You could, some of the promotions that they did had the little miniature plastic figures, and then some had these little sticker stamps. They came in different colors and different scenes. And Morinaga, also in Japan, had various different strawberry caramels and things like this that had just a myriad of different interesting premiums. They would be pin backs, and there was these things like pill boxes, I guess for the kids that need to take their Ritalin or something. But just all kinds of things. And so this is the promotion where those walls, the sausage Letra set rub-downs ended up in as well. And some Star Wars chews, which is like a taffy kind of thing done by a company called Trebor. And they did 2 flavors for A New Hope, and then those same 2, or at least similar to, flavors for The Empire Strikes Back. So you can see the Star Wars logos at the top and the Empire Strikes Back logos below there. And these are very, very popular. This was during the Attack of the Clones era in Germany, and they take this famous blue hippo, that's their Kinder Egg premium, and turn Star Wars characters, or like he's dressing up as Star Wars characters in all of those scenes. There's a lot of good promotional material with this available also. And Hollywood Gum did in France, for the Attack of the Clones, a promotion / contest where you could win, I think it was a trip, and some other really nice prizes if you got various levels of those complete. So you will notice here we only have 18 of the 20, and that's because the 2 that are missing are, of course, the ones that they only made 1 or 2 of for the grand prize and another prize. And the same company then followed it up with Revenge of the Sith, but this time instead of being on all the different boxes, they're in stickers on the multi-packs. Winterito, or Winters de Leche, or the new one, is in Peru, and this is a chocolate bar that comes with a little plastic figure. And so for Clone Wars, there was an initial series there, and inside of each wrapper you would get the chocolate bar that was kind of a tray, and then this one figure. They came in kind of this silver color and gold color and a glow-in-the-dark color. And many, many boxes later, many pounds later, you have a full set. Well, then they followed it up for the episode 1 in 3D, or so you think. But all of those were a continuation, actually, of the Clone Wars. So there weren't any Phantom Menace figures in there. They were all continuation of Clone Wars, even though the episode 1 was the thing. And so Gus and I and Steve and several of us in Peru had a fun time just buying huge numbers of boxes of these and going through them. Although the nice thing on these was the chocolate bars didn't have the figure with them on this one. They came packaged separately. So what you would do is you'd go into the store and you would buy, for every 2 bars, little chocolate bars you would buy, you got to pick a character. So it was a little easier set to complete. But we would just rip open the box and take the bag of things and just toss those out and kind of throw the chocolates aside. All right, the nice thing, or interesting thing, or difficult thing, depending on how you look at it, in collecting food, is that you can open the packaging. And we recommend that you open the packaging, particularly for things like milk and bread and other perishables. Nobody wants to eat, cereal that's 25 years old or 28 years old. Some people did this weekend. But it is very important that you remove the food out of these things. They can actually damage the packaging itself and spill onto the rest of your collection and ruin many more pieces from that collection. So particularly with cardboard, it's nice to just flatten them, or you can try to obtain the box flats, things that were never even used, and so that's always a nice way of getting food promotions, is something that's never even had food in it. And then same thing with chips, potato chips or whatever. You can just neatly slice them open, wash them out, and if you want, you can display them out flat as well.
So yeah, so how do you find food collectibles? Like, the premiums, as we mentioned a couple times, those tend to be saved more often than the packaging, but these are one of the hardest things to find, especially older food promotions. And so, but there are a number of ways that people are able to collect these. So the best way is, of course, as this stuff is coming out, that you actually buy it in the stores, or you get friends to buy it, in their local stores. And so when they're doing international promotions, what many of us do is we network with people all over the world who buy the stuff for us locally. We also buy things while we're traveling. It's another way, good way to acquire these.
I guess our time for that.
Yeah, telling us out of time. And then these things do turn up on eBay quite a bit, but since there's so many different food promotions, the best thing to do is to kind of have searches for these, because there's like hundreds of these things, and you want to do kind of different searches for particular ones. There are also some great forums where you can meet other collectors who specialize in this. So here are some that we recommend. So Rebel Scum has a food forum where people talk about food collectibles. More specialized forums that are actually, have much more discussion about food collectibles. StarWarsCards.net is really about Star Wars trading cards, but since so many food promotions were about trading cards, it's a common theme in that forum. And then SerialBits.com is a site for serial collectors, not just Star Wars serial collectors, but serial collectors of all kinds of serial boxes and premiums. And so many of them also cover Star Wars on that site. They're highly recommended for serial collectors. And then there's some other websites, here are some of the links where, Star Wars Food Collectibles are covered. It's one of those areas where there's lots of different specialties and different focuses. Some focus on like ice cream or cereal or drinks or one particular area, and some try to go broad on it or just go for certain films. And now we'll have time for some questions, and then we'll go to our raffle.
We're going to do the questions next door? Okay, yeah, so we'll do the questions next door. All right, so we have these full sets of Pepsi cards. It's a set of 24 cards and the booklet. that were available to dealers, Pepsi dealers, and these are from episode 1, and these are fairly difficult to find, so we have 5 complete sets ready for the
The
rep.
first winner is 380085.
That's me!
If you have it, all right,
We
come on
got
up.
one back there.
How many sets do we have, Duncan?
We have 5.
The next winner is, with a capital W, 380055. All right, we have another winner. That's 2 out of 5. The next winner is 380107. Nobody? Loser. Up there. Winner. All right. The next one is, you're a loser. You're a winner. The next one is 380094. All right, come on up. And then we got one more. Is that right?
One more.
Ooh, I hope it's you. 380049. Now, I have one more thing to announce. Next door in the Collector Social Room, the artist who did the backgrounds for the Star Tots will be there signing autographs. He'll sign your Star Tots. His name is Jason Peltz. He does a lot of really great work. So you can go over there, you can sign something, just shake his hand.